Hi, I'm Izzy Clark, and I'm a primatologist getting my PhD in biological anthropology at the University of Texas at Austin, but I'm currently in Kibale National Park in Western Uganda. I first came here as a research assistant for the Ngogo Chimpanzee Project in 2017, and right now I'm in the middle of spending a full year here collecting data for my dissertation on the development of territorial behavior in young chimps. So my field site in Ngogo is a patch of about 40 square kilometers or 15 square miles of forest in the middle of Kibale National Park. And part of this habitat is old growth forest that is really rich with huge fig and fruit trees that frugivorous primates really love. So it's like a chimpanzee paradise here. The Ngogo chimps have been studied since the 90s, so even though chimps can live almost as long as humans, we know a lot about their individual stories and relationships with each other here. Chimpanzees live in large groups of sometimes over 100 individuals with multiple males and females and their offspring all hanging out and sharing a territory. At Ngogo, there are about 200 chimpanzees, so it was actually once the largest group ever studied. But it went through a very rare split several years ago, almost like a civil war. So now we have two smaller groups, but this means that we have a unique opportunity to study the dynamics of conflict between them. Even in this abundant forest, resources are limited, so these large groups of chimps have to defend their shared territory against neighboring groups. Chimps usually make a lot of noise, but when they go on boundary patrols, they go silent and they walk single file, sometimes deep into their neighbor's territory. If they hear a group of neighbors calling that outnumbers them, they might just silently retreat. But if their numbers are matched or they outnumber the neighboring group, they might have a big encounter, which usually involves a lot of screaming and charging around, maybe some physical contact and injuries. But if they manage to isolate a neighbor male, they will try to pin him down, pile on top of him, and really beat him up, which can lead to serious injury or even death. So one of the things we still don't understand is how young chimps learn how to participate in these complex, cooperative, territorial behaviors like patrols and intergroup encounters. So first I'm looking at when young chimps actually start joining and actively participating in patrols and encounters. My team and I record signs of fear and vigilance and behaviors like vocalizations, charging displays, and actual contact with neighbors. And these are from observation as well as from video. Since these encounters can be really chaotic in the moment and, hard to keep track of everything all at once. On top of that, we collect urine to look at the hormonal underpinnings of behavior. We know that, at least in adult chimpanzees, cortisol, which is known as the stress hormone, and testosterone, which is linked to aggression but also cooperation, both spike in anticipation of territorial activity before it even happens. So we want to know when this pattern first emerges in young chimps. Another big question is why some chimpanzees participate while others don't. So some adult males are considered impact patrollers who lead the rest of the group when going after neighbors. Why do some chimps, like some humans, develop into warriors? So in exploring these questions, we aim to get at the developmental, physiological, and evolutionary roots of conflict and cooperation in one of our closest relatives. I've spent a total of about 2 years here at Ngogo in 2 to 7 month chunks, and now what will be a year-long chunk. Our camp is in the middle of a clearing on a hill in the middle of the forest, and I live in a big tent under a shelter, sort of like this one behind me. It mostly keeps out the rain, but we also do have a few cabins for storing things, cooking, eating. There are birds, lizards, monkeys, even the occasional chimp will come right to camp, and I feel super lucky that I get to be surrounded by such natural beauty and wonder all the time. We do have to wake up in the dark, which is probably my least favorite part of fieldwork, but that way we can head out to look for the chimps as soon as the sun comes up. And we usually head to the area we left them the day before, or to trees we know are fruiting, where chimps are probably eating breakfast. And we also locate them by their calls, so they do these really loud, long-distance pant hoot calls that help us locate them. Or we can also use other signs like dung and knuckle prints in the mud. And then we spend all day following them. I usually spend up to 3 hours at a time focusing on one chimp, recording their behavior and collecting urine samples. And then we get back to camp before dark, shower with rainwater out of a bag that heats up in the sun during the day, have dinner with other researchers at 7:30, and then we do it all again the next day. So I actually grew up in New York City, so I didn't have much access to nature and wildlife growing up, besides pigeons and squirrels, of course. So I was always really fascinated by animals and just curious about how all these diverse life forms evolved, and then more specifically, why animals, including humans, behave the way they do. So I went to Duke University for college and got to work with lemurs at the Duke Lemur Center, then got to study wild primates in their natural habitats while I studied abroad in Madagascar, and I just got really hooked on fieldwork. So here I am today.